Rather than struggling alone, seek out advice from someone who can offer a new perspective. That's the advice of this week's Creative Genius podcast guest, Mike Agugliaro, a self-made entrepreneur who unlocked the key to resolving whatever issues he may face. Learn his secrets for happiness in today's episode. The results of our 2024 Interior Design Business Survey are now available. Over 1,000 interior designers shared their experiences this year, and now you can see the insights about the state of the industry for free, thanks to Pearl Collective, Interior Talent, and Business of Home. Just go to interiordesignsurvey.com/2024 to download your copy of the report for free right now.
Mike, welcome to the Creative Genius podcast. I've been looking to our conversation for quite a while, and you are up on the East Coast and hopefully safe from all the hurricane issues that are going on.
Yeah, very safe and excited to be here, Gail.
Well, it's our pleasure. So thanks for being here. I was thinking back, you and I met, 2015.
Wow.
I know, it was in a mastermind group. It's been a while. And I was just thinking about how when I met you, you were just so quiet. You're very intent, you're thoughtful. That's the memory of my meeting with you. And what I've come to find out is how brilliant you are at business. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey and how you got into doing what you're doing. And we'll get into your current business, but I'd like to start way back at the beginning.
Well, it's interesting. I don't hear anybody really tell me Mike was so quiet and stuff. But I guess I am a natural introvert. So now thinking back, I don't like, big rooms, a lot of people, and I normally sit and observe. But yeah, look, I've been on my own since I'm 15 years old. I always say I'm a survivor of a really tough parent divorce. And I ended up in a vocational school because back then it's like you're either fit for college or they're like, I just felt like I was going down a conveyor belt and it was like no, Mike, you're probably a plumber or an electrician. And so I went to a trade school and I became an electrician by trade. And then I ended up in the world, I had a mortgage by the time I was 19 years old.
Wow.
It's funny about interest rates today. People talk about back then in 1989, I had a mortgage. It was 18% interest. And I'm thinking people are freaking out over 7-8%. I'm like, I was 18% in 9 years. I think I paid off $1,000 on this thing. And I started working for people. And I thought my boss was an idiot. And I figured I could do better than him. I'll just start my own electrical company to find out I was an idiot just like my boss. I didn't, you think but you don't know any better. And I struggled. So everybody listening, I understand struggle. I struggled for about 10, 12 years. I couldn't hire people. I didn't understand customers. Seems like nobody had money and everybody complained about the price. And one day, I had a couple turning points, Gail. One was my son was being born. He's 25 now, so this goes back a while ago. And I remember going home. My wife was at the hospital with my son. And I remember putting together one of those rocking, gliding chairs so my wife could do the breastfeeding thing and stuff. And I remember probably about 11 o'clock at night, Gail, I sat in it and I built it. I just broke down crying. I was like, I'm going to be just like my dad. I'm going to work myself. I'm never going to be around for anything. And that was one of my big turning points, that something had to change. And I don't know how it came about, but the enlightenment was there must be somebody that figured it out, just like you. Mm-hmm. There must be someone that figured it out, and I have to go pay them and learn from it. So to give people a faster track here, the next 10 years of my life, I built a plumbing, HVAC, electrical company in New Jersey from under $1 million to $32 million in a 10-year period. I had 200 employees, 165 trucks fixing people's stuff. I sold that in 2017. And then in 2014, I wanted to make a stand. I wanted to change the world. And all my friends were struggling, and There's nothing worse than getting around family or friends, Gail, and they're like, how's everything going? And I'm like, oh, I'm great. I'm making a lot of money and I don't have a mortgage. And I'm like, how about you? And they're like, horrible. Life stinks. Wow. I have no, and I was like, I got to change this. So in 2014, I built a coaching company and called CEO Warrior. And I coached over 1,000 business owners. Mm-hmm. I had over 20,000 tradespeople come through my training. And I sold that company in 2020. So that gives you a little bit, not where we are today, but that gives you a little bit of background for people. I understand growing. I understand struggles. I understand lawsuits. I understand the economy, recession of 2008 and Y2K and pandemics. I get all of this.
So in all of these situations, here you are, you've struggled, you've gone through all these difficult challenges, and obviously you were smart enough to get coaching, smart enough to get help, and then you started your own coaching business, and of course built that to a very successful and profitable business as well. Yeah. And I think I think it's really interesting because you have walked the walk. You've done all the things that you teach, which is awesome. And I remember recently, and I can't remember the whole story, but you had posted something not too long ago, which I picked up and thought it was so humorous, about how somebody asked if you were certified as a coach. Yeah. And then you proceeded to tell them, well, yeah, I've built a company, or I had the company of 200. And I don't know exactly how you said it, but it was so funny. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, here's the perfect example of someone who has learned, who has gone out and has sought the resources and has changed his way of doing things so that he can succeed.
Yeah.
What do you think is different about your approach versus a lot of people's approach?
I'll give you two things that I think are very, and it's funny you say that about this story, because the other story, I was in Wells Fargo years ago. And the woman, like, first she's just like, I'm bothering her. This tattoo guy needs something, right? Like, the world is so quick to judge. And she starts typing on the computer and then looks at the bank account, looks at me, looks at the computer. What do you do? And I told her, and she goes, oh, what college did you go to? And I said, the College of Common Sense. And the woman still couldn't even get me by the time I was done. But I learned two big things. One, how do you get an answer to what you're struggling on? You create a question. So what is the question you're dealing with? Number two, ask somebody way smarter than you the question. And, I was sharing with my brother about a year ago, even the last 2 years alone, Gail, between my wife, my son, my team, we've invested over $300,000 a year in our own education. Mm-hmm. And my brother said to me, he goes, you built and sold 2 big companies. Don't you know everything? And I said, you know what? I know everything and I know nothing, all in the same day. Mm-hmm. And I said, the day I think I know everything is the day it's over. It's going to start to unwind. Mm-hmm. So I believe if everybody just writes down, what's the question? And oh my goodness, Gail, I do a lot of training. So I'm with a lot of people, and you know how it is. You say, anybody have a question? And people, they stare. And I go, even if you don't know the question, ask this one question. And everybody, write it down. What's the question I should be asking today? There you go. There's the question. You all now have a question forever. What's the question I should be asking? And if people do those two things, get the right people, ask the right question, or ask them, what question should I be asking? Life's going to change for them.
It's so interesting. I've had some interesting conversations in the last few weeks with some of my clients. And one of the questions that came up recently was, I was talking to this one client, and she was very upset and very emotional about things. And I think it's just been a really tough time for her. And sometimes people are so emotional they can't even come to a question because they don't know what to ask. Yeah. And so I love that you gave people a question to ask. But I also think that what was really interesting, and maybe I'd love your opinion on this, what I was observing in the conversation was that she was thinking that she reads a lot, she listens to a lot of podcasts, and she feels like she's smarter than everybody, but yet she's struggling.
Yeah.
So I thought this was really interesting. And my thought was, especially as I went back and thought through the things that she hadn't applied from what we had taught, that a lot of people think they have achieved knowledge and expertise because they've listened to things or they've read things, but they haven't taken action. So I'd love for you to speak to that.
Yeah. Well, I think people gain knowledge. I'm not sure everyone gains wisdom. And knowledge is going to become, because of the technology evolution we're going through with AI and all this, knowledge is going to become pretty much useless, and wisdom will be a superpower. The other thing is this world of comparison effect. I think this is causing more probably addiction and depression than anything in the world, because you're on Facebook and you're seeing your friend from 30 years ago that you thought was an idiot in school, and now they're married to the most perfect looking guy. They have a beautiful house and they vacation. And on Facebook, you're going, what happened to me, right? This person, they got lucky. And the other thing is, I don't listen to things like that today. If it's entertainment, well, normally my beautiful wife and I have been together since we're 15 years old, Jennifer. So it's 39 years. So yeah, we watch Netflix series for entertainment, but I don't just consume, and I hope everybody will write this down. I don't consume information that does not apply today, which means if I have a culture problem, I only focus on things that improve culture. If I have a marketing problem, I only listen to things that are going to help my problem. So with the podcast world today, I love all these things. But the thing is, make sure you're listening to solve the one thing. Otherwise, you're gaining more knowledge and you're not gaining wisdom. And how do you take action on knowledge? You take action on wisdom.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great distinction. So let's go back to you selling your businesses. You've sold 2 so far, and that's a very challenging process, and only 20% of businesses ever sell. So you have done it successfully, and you have multi-million-dollar businesses. So talk to us about how that all happened and why you decided to sell, and what the things were that you learned through the process that you'd like to share with other people.
What a great question. And this, I hope this becomes one of the most viewed episodes for you guys.
Me too.
I don't believe anybody sells a company. I believe they sell themselves into a bigger and different future. When I was growing Gold Medal, like I said, I had a lot of friends that were struggling. That company, it was 32 million. It ran itself for the last 5 years. I didn't have an office in it. I had 200 employees. I loved the people. But it just happened, I loved changing the industry better. So I sold myself into changing, because especially plumbers and electricians, these guys, no one goes, I'm so excited today. The plumbers come into the house, right? They have these notions of what he looks like, and they have these notions of what his life is like. And I wanted to change that completely. So I sold that company to sell into this new world called CEO Warrior. And in 5 years, I made such an impact in that blue collar space of plumbers and HVAC guys. Matter of fact, in the last 36 months, Gail, almost 80 of them have sold their companies, which is life-changing. It's legacy changing. And again, the pandemic came in, and I made an impact in this world. And I said, who's struggling now? And people were struggling. They didn't know how to navigate life through the pandemic. They didn't know how to navigate business and thinking. So I sold that company because I sold myself into a bigger future, which is what we have today, which is FuDog Group, which is life, business, and wealth by design. Because if you don't have it by design, you have it by default. And some of the things I learned is everybody is gonna, let's not use the term sell, let's use the term exit. Everybody's gonna exit their company eventually. You're either gonna exit by selling it, and you're gonna make money. You're gonna exit it, I hope not, none of you listening, by going out of business. You're going to exit it because you die. And then I hope that doesn't happen for a long, long time for all of you. You're going to exit it because you decide to, give it to family, but you're going to exit it eventually. And I think people don't ever look at the timeline of what are all the different ways I might exit and prepare for that in advance. And I didn't prepare for the first one, but the second one, I prepared for in advance. And then this company today, I always tell people, like, I finally, me and my wife, we made it full circle. We made it back to what I would call our soul's purpose, which is to remove suffering and help people have life, business, and wealth by design. Because if you go back 30 years ago, my wife and I used to hold out of our house. We did not have a big house. We'd bring 50 people in on a Friday night, and we would do empowerment events and break boards and fire walking, and we never charged anybody anything, and we'd feed them. And we did that. And then I started growing companies. I did less of that to come right back to we're changing humanity.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
And the changing humanity is really about changing mindset and belief and so many other things. So talk to me a little bit about the core principles behind what you're doing.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I spent, Gail, a lot of time thinking about mindset because, my grandfather and grandmother used to point their old crooked finger at me. It's all about your mindset, and I was thinking back in time and I was saying, well, wait a second. My dad was a mason and he used to pour concrete. And when concrete settles, it's strong. It doesn't change. And that sounded like mindset, which sounded like mind stuck. I don't think it's about mindset. I believe it's about mind growth.
Love that.
This is what everybody's craving. And that's why I wrote a book called Mind Power, because I wanted to share with people that a lot of the phrases and things that they heard and hear today, they might help some, but what if that word holds them back? Like Think and Grow Rich. I was speaking to 3,000 people and I said, how many of you read Think and Grow Rich? And the hands go up. It's like they all have a badge. It's like they have the tattoo of Napoleon Hill on their arm. I read it. And I go, okay, keep your hands up. Now keep your hands up if you're rich. And 99% of the hands went down. So I said, well, wait a second. If the book is so amazing, you're also proud you read it, but you're not rich. I don't know. Is there something missing in the book? Is there something missing inside of you? Is there a strategy or a timing? But let's be clear. The book doesn't change anybody's life. You're thinking about the book or through the book is what's going to change your life. And until you have mind growth, you have a great significance, but you don't have great success a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the definition of success, obviously you have a different idea of what that is for you and for other people. And I'd love for you to talk about that because I don't think some people understand what success truly is. Yeah. And again, it's, I think, somewhat subjective.
Yeah. My wife and I were driving the other day and I will tell everybody listening, I have a great balance between chaos and, like I would call it in my life, I have a great balance between heaven and hell every week. Like, it's balanced. And we were driving because, we have a 22-year-old daughter, a 25-year-old son. Anybody that's having kids, you're nodding your head. When they're little, it's little things. When they're big, it's big things. And then I was thinking, I got this one deal that went south, millions of dollars. And as I was driving with my wife, I said, you know what? With everything that's going on, I'm just so glad we're driving together. We were just going somewhere. And I just looked over and I'm like, this is everything right here, no matter what's happening. So I think if you could look at success as, getting to the point of no matter what you want or what you desire, that you could sit in a state of just grace. Like you could sit in a state of just going, I'm excited to be alive. Mm-hmm. Because if you think of like the Florida thing and people losing houses and disease and addiction, like it's just, so that's my definition of success. I know a lot of people want to say it's, money and business and health. I just feel it is a state inside your mind that tells you that you're just excited to be alive and you want to be alive as long as you possibly can.
And healthy at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I'll talk to my husband sometimes. We were making a drive yesterday. We're building a new house, and on our way out there, he just looked at me and said, "We are so lucky." And he says that probably at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And he feels very grateful that we have the opportunities that we have in our life. And I think about how that is such a simple thing. And I think his parents brought him up to believe that the simplicity of the relationships, which is not necessarily simple, but the relationships are everything. And if you have if things are relatively good in your life, just you have to appreciate where you are at that very moment, because not all people have that situation. A lot of other people have many difficult things to deal with.
Yeah. And I don't know about the word luck, because I believe you've created your luck. You've made decisions. You did things that other people don't do. And I'm also a firm believer. I believe, Gail, there's a lot of like old beliefs that I think also hold a certain generation. Like I still say goodnight to my kids every night. My son's like, when are we saying goodnight? He lives in Maine now, and we get on Zoom with his girlfriend. And normally I'm like showing him my eyeball and FaceTime and stuff. I'm silly like that. And I think those things too, those are the moments that mean everything. And when you look back, when I look at the biggest chaos that I had a decade ago, it really is nothing today, 10 years later. Mm-hmm. It's very tiny. And I always tell people, most of your pain and suffering is like either trauma, guilt, or shame that you're still living like it's today, but it's been gone for maybe a decade for most people. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to live with that. We're in a world where people created these identities today. Mm-hmm. And they're living the identity, and the identity is not serving them anymore.
So how do you let go of the trauma, guilt, and shame?
Yeah. I'll give a quick way, and one of the ways is when you could see it as balanced. I am around a lot of, professional people and experts like you, and they do this gratitude exercise. And I'm a believer that the gratitude exercise, the way most people do it, is actually dangerous. I think it hurts them. Most people are grateful for everything that's good that's happening, which is a one-sided fantasy. Mm. And so when I go to bed, I do a gratitude exercise. I look at everything that went amazing, and I'm like, I'm grateful for that. Then I look at everything that was not amazing, and I'm like, I'm grateful for the crack in the windshield, the flat tire, the traffic, and the meal, and they put the wrong cheese on the burger. And I go back and forth on those gratitudes until I feel like I'm leveled out. And then I do a gratitude for the future of what didn't even come yet. So if we pull that back into what we're talking about here, is that a lot of people are inside their mind, what they're struggling with, they only see the downside. Now, let me share a story. My mom, this is probably 6-8 months ago. It was last summer. She said to me, we live down the Jersey Shore, which is great right now because everybody leaves, right? So it's only like locals now. It's like we own the beach now. And my mom said to me, Gail, she said, sometimes when I listen to your videos and you talk about being on your own at 15, I feel really bad. And I was like, Mom, wait a second. Hang on. Let me share something with you. And I said, Mom, you see it as a bad thing. That created independence in me. It created drive in me. That experience helped me have the endurance and strength to scale and sell 2 large, high 8-figure organizations. Mm-hmm. And, she's a mom, so I'm still not sure she got it, but I got it. I didn't see the downside. I was equally able to see the downside and the upside. And if everybody can equally see both sides of it, you don't live with guilts and shames and traumas. They start to just extinguish away. And just someone listening, just try it with something simple today. Now, the world, you have to protect yourself because, I'm from a generation where that generation didn't have much of a filter, Gail. They're like, oh, looks like you're bulking up a little bit. I'm like, is that a kind way to say I'm looking fatter? Right? Like they have no filter back then. Today, I think people are a little conscious, maybe just a little bit. But, people want to embed their shames about, oh, you're going to eat all the cake. It's like that Game of Thrones, I think, where it's like shame. So, yeah, you could balance it out.
Well, that's a great exercise for people to do, and I'll have to try that myself.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, you never learn anything really from the things that go well. It's always from the things that are hard
100%.
to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate when things go well, but for a lot of us, we have a lot of things that don't go as well as we'd like. So we have lots of opportunities to really change our thoughts about that and take that in as a lesson. So I love that.
Yeah. And Gail, the thing I check myself every day with is that thought empowering me or disempowering me? Mm-hmm. Because let's say you don't have enough money in the business or you're struggling to get clients and all you keep repeating is, I'm struggling and people aren't buying and people don't have money. Well, you're going to disempower yourself, and that's the only reality that you can live within. Versus turning around and saying, okay, I see there's someone, I'm reaching out, someone's going to say yes. I know I'm the best in the world for them. It's the difference between chaos and certainty. And today, the more you can live in a state of certainty, the more confidence you have and the greater you're going to get to what you desire in life. The more chaos and especially in a world of polarity, you're saying this is unfair and it's the economy. No, it's not. This is everything everyone sees in the world today is human behavior and it's being driven by, they want to say it's driven by everyone else. It's driven by us. If we all change, everything changes. Everything changes.
That sounds simple. So in saying something that simple, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I believe in playing, we each play our part. We each play our part. When you play your part and you're out there, I don't contribute to drama. I don't do drama. And being an influencer, because I have decades of a following of people, there's every now and then someone wants to come and, they want to give you their Facebook wisdom of why you are horrible and make no sense. And I just say, thank you. You win. Like, you win. I hope you feel good today. I'm great about myself. I always tell people, like, I curse every now and then. If you don't like it, pray for me. I'm perfectly fine the way that I am. So I think if everybody just wakes up, when I go to bed, my last gratitude is I say, Gail, if you let me, universe, you let me wake up tomorrow, I won't waste that day. I will do my very best to serve people. I will give it everything I got. Just let me wake up in the morning. Let me wake up. Let me see my wife. Let me see my kids, because there's no guarantee. And I think when you frame this in a way, I'm so excited to be here with you today. We know each other since 2015. I mean, look at this. This is life right here. Whatever else is happening, it's happening because, I don't believe things happen to you. I believe they happen for you. You just don't understand why it's happening. My wife and I just said it the other day. We're saying, what are we being balanced at right now? I'm like, I don't know, but I hope we're balanced already, because I don't want more of that chaos that's happening. And I think, Gail, a lot of people out there, when they see people like us and influencers and people make an impact, they think you live in a land of butterflies and rainbows and Skittles. And I'm like, no, we have the same things. We just don't let those similar things break us. That's all.
It's not easy to shift that thinking, though, for many of us. And I'll include myself in there. Sometimes I get stuck in my own little pity party, hopefully not for too long, because I'm
Yeah.
an action taker. But it's to me, and this is just me, my first response is, okay, well, this isn't exactly great. So what can I do about it? What is the step I can take to move past this and make this a better situation? So that's always in the back of my mind, because some days are just hard and it's really hard to see the positivity of this situation. But
Yeah.
for me, it's all about get into action, do something, and you'll get some feedback, and then you can make another shift. But don't sit there and feel sorry for yourself, because it won't solve the problem. But
Yeah.
I'd love your opinion on that.
I don't believe that there's any positive or negative, good or bad, right or wrong. I believe there's only the definition you choose to give it. And if you think about that, then you get to stop a minute and pause and say, okay, what is this really? Now, my fail safe is I ask questions of smart people every single day. There's probably not a day in my life I don't, because I have 4 different coaches. I'm in 4 different types of mastermind groups, and I am the ultimate, not only contributor, I'm the ultimate leader of asking a question. What do you see? What don't I see? How would you feel if you're in this position? We just got a weird lawsuit the other day from a 1099 employee, which is a subcontractor, trying to act like he was an employee. It's a subcontractor. And I'm like, okay, what do? Go to smart people. Has anybody ever experienced this? How did you feel? What did you do? Did it get you in a funk? If it did, how did you get out of the funk? And it's like, I want to solve things so quick. And the way I do it is I find out. There's probably anybody listening here. You don't get the badge of honor if this is the first time somebody experienced it. So you might as well learn from somebody else and get past it quickly. Get back to happiness as fast as you possibly can.
Nah, that's great. So let's talk about your current business, FuDog Group.
Okay.
And you started that a few years ago. I watched you get that rolling, and
Yeah.
I watched your posts over in Facebook, and your wife's involved, and you have a lot of things that you've been doing to help a lot of people. What do you think is the biggest impact you've been able to make on people, and why is that?
You know, we created the FuDog name. My wife and I and our business partner, Aaron, we were sitting at a restaurant, and I'm a boutique brand builder, Gail, but I'm a builder of movements. I don't want to build anything for money. Money will come. I want to build it because it's a movement that will shift things. And FuDogs, if anybody doesn't know what FuDogs are, they're the mystical, like lion dogs. They sit outside castles and stuff. And there's a male and a female. And when we were sitting there, I said, you know what? And they're over 5,000 years old. I said, we're going to grab something that is powerful in strength, but very balanced. Because everybody has masculine and feminine energy. It just depends on the balance of the two. And I believe what we're doing that's making the biggest difference, besides we're helping life, business, and wealth by design, is we have a lot of couples in our world. And, you know, because when I was running business only events, a wife that wasn't in the business, what was she going to do? I mean, okay, so every wife was there going, I'm so excited. I'm going to go to a place, learn marketing at a company called CEO Warrior. Like, come on. Like, if that isn't scary enough for a lot of women, like, oh, I'm going to go there, and they bang tables and bang their chest. It's like, okay, so I had a very imbalanced organization. I didn't realize it till I made people wealthy. And then they were getting divorced, which was never the plan. And then I was making them wealthy, and then they weren't getting healthy because now they have no more money problems. So they're going out and eating and drinking all this. And I was like, oh, man. So what we did was we created an organization that can help where men and women, couples or individuals can come together and learn and grow through a balanced approach so that they can improve their life. If they have a business, improve their business with the goal to get to wealth and have a legacy. Gail, I don't know how it is for women, but I'll share on a man's perspective. If you look at your legacy, most people don't know, and I wonder if you know, like, do you know your dad's dad? Most people don't.
Nope.
That's only four away, which means in 3 or 4, you're not even a distant memory of anybody. And I was thinking, wow, is that what this is about? Like, you're just going to, like, my kids won't even know who I am. And that motivates me to create not only a brand and create an impact. And we have a target, not only for the impact, our immediate targets to impact. So thank you for having me on. It's to impact 1.2 million people or more by 2030. And we want the brand to impact people's lives, and people might be interstellar by then for the next 1,000 years. And I believe that makes us different. And we have a world of experience because, you know, my wife's in the business, my son's in the business, I have a partner. We have a team of 17 people, and we work with them every single week. We're their board of advisors. So if you're going to buy something, sell something, you're struggling in your mind, and if you want your life to go faster, well, you know, you get your mind, I'll say get your mind back to where it was. Because Gail, a good friend of mine said, probably over 2 decades ago, he says, and everybody might want to write this down. He said, you're born perfectly fine. Life has a way to make you unfine with the hopes in your life to getting back to fine. So if I summarize FuDog, we want to get you back to fine as fast as we can.
Love that. Yeah. Well, it's great. And I'm curious too, and I'm sure part of this is your wife, but who is your greatest inspiration?
Wow. Well, there's so many. I'll give you one that might surprise a lot of people. And I share this story because I feel it's impactful. My dad, he was a great inspiration of a strong man. And he passed last year in November. And, you know, he was holding my hand a couple weeks before he passed on. And hopefully this isn't too sensitive for anybody, but maybe it's a good memory of who you love. And he said, you know, Michael, I'm so proud of you. And I said, thanks, Dad. That feels good. But I told my dad, I want you to know something. I've been really proud of me a long time. And he just looked like that was one of the most magical things. So one of my first inspirations is myself. I inspire myself and I challenge myself. But after that, my wife, my dad, my mom, my son, what an inspiration. 25 years old, authored 2 books, coaches over 40 people, helped create Deca Millionaires at 25 years old. My daughter at 22. Like, so probably the other answer nobody gets is every single person has been an inspiration for me, from the person working at the grocery store to you, to the listeners, to people on social media I never met, but they did a post. I'm inspired by every human on this planet.
That's so beautiful. And it's so interesting. And I know that you have said before, I've read this in a couple of places, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you've never done those things. You've been faithful to your wife. You have a wonderful marriage. You have really just focused on being a good person. And it's very clear that you were centered and grounded at a very early age, at 15, to have found your wife and then to still be together after all these years and running these businesses is amazing. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and don't make it sound rainbows and Skittles again.
Never.
Yeah, I never did drugs or alcohol my whole life, but being on your own at 15, you really only have 2 choices: be a statistic or prove the world wrong. And that was one of my goals: prove the world wrong. A relationship only goes that long because you're really good arguing and resolving arguments. We still get into stuff today, me and my wife, like, because she says, don't forget to switch the clothes and push this button on the dryer. I can't ever remember the button to push. And I never put the dish away in the right spot. So we've learned how to do the dance of understanding each other. And, I believe everybody in a relationship that's growing together, they don't have to grow the same way, but if they're growing together, they won't grow apart. And that's something we've been conscious of our whole life. And, I want to live a really, really long time. It's the only way that I can impact the world. I'm pretty excited about the consciousness being able to pull me out and put me in a robot. I want the coolest robot. Like, I want my mind to be in the coolest robot ever. So I'm excited for all this wildness you see. And, they say every household in the next 10 years, there'll be more robots in houses than cars on the road. So everybody knows I'm calling my robot Ninja. And I'm pretty convinced, like, the people that drive by with like loud cars, I'm going to have my robot go chase it down the road and stuff. So I'm excited about all this world.
And it's going to have tattoos on it. I know that.
Oh, of course. I'm already got some ideas of the tattoos this robot's going to have. It's going to be so cool looking, this thing. I know it scares a lot of people, but I met a woman down here because the beach is right down the road where me and my wife live. And she was turning 90 something. This is about a month ago. And I'm like my dad. I'm in the grocery store. I'm the guy that's talking to you in the cereal aisle or something. Like, I just talk to everybody. And so I'm talking to this woman, and she's been around before cars, before gasoline. And I was like, imagine then people were worried about cars. They were worried about, washing machines and refrigerators and then cell phones and internet. And I'll just tell everybody, like, evolution has as many upsides as downsides, and fearing it doesn't help anybody, because at one time, I'm glad they have electricity. I'm glad I have a toilet bowl that flushes. I'm glad I don't have to go to a building and crap in a hole. I am so glad. My grandmother said the Sears catalog was out before toilet paper. They used to use, can you imagine this? So, you know what? I don't fear all this. I love all of this, this thing. And as humans get stronger together, we'll create a more sustainable and healthier, and then we'll become interstellar. And I'm already trying to figure out how to get FuDog on Mars and stuff. So I'm in the long game.
You can call up Elon and tell him how you can do that.
I'm working on it.
I bet you are. Well, we always like to end our podcast with asking our guest about 3 things they would like to share. Maybe 3 takeaways, 3 ideas that we talked about today, or maybe didn't even talk about, but you would like to share with our audience.
Yeah. 3 things that I would like to share is, 1, if you're in a relationship, just don't give up. Just don't give up. Embrace the wildness of your partner. They're not there to give you, they're there to give you growth, and vice versa. So that's number 1. Number 2, your health. Like, you got one shot at this, and I realize it's tough. I don't do sugar and I don't do gluten no more. And I'm an Italian guy. Like, how does an Italian guy go gluten free? Like, it's ridiculous, right? But your health is important, and people are counting on you. And then number 3, I promise you, no matter what your situation is that you're in life, no matter what's happening, there is a way out of it, and there's a way forward. And if you ask the right question to the right people, the life that you desire, it's not that far away. I promise you. Just read the book 3 Foot from Gold or Acres of Diamonds. If you've never heard of it, just read those 2, and you'll find out it's right there. Your greatest future is already built. It's just waiting for you to catch up to it. So I wish all the listeners amazing success and extremely long and healthy life.
You are a beautiful human being. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Boom.
Thanks, Mike, for sharing your tips for breaking through your mental blockades and how to apply your knowledge in the form of wisdom. Join us again next week for another episode of the Creative Genius Podcast. Find us on our website, thepearlcollective.com, where you can see exclusive video versions of the podcast, or check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The results of our 2024 Interior Design Business Survey are now available. Over 1,000 interior designers shared their experiences this year, and now you can see the insights about the state of the industry for free, thanks to Pearl Collective, Interior Talent, and Business of Home. Just go to interiordesignsurvey.com/2024 to download your copy of the report for free right now.